Hey everyone, perhaps you have heard of this thing called audiation, but you want to know if you can develop it yourself. So, audiation is this ability to hear music internally, and I offer 3 courses on how to do that, but they vary in purpose. So, today I want to go over what those purposes are so that you can see if any of them meet your needs. I realize that people learn in different ways, I realize that people want different things. I'll have people come to me and say, okay, just tell me the how. Just give me the information, and I will figure out the step by step course that I need to follow to make this work for me. Other people come to me and they say, okay, I want less explanation. I just want to know how to do this. I just want you to teach me step by step. And then there's people in between that want a little bit of visual and a little bit of instruction. So I've really created 3 courses because audiation is such a large part of what I do to help address these different types of groups. So depending on what you are, there's a course for you. So I really offer 3 courses. There's Audiation Essentials. That just teaches the principles. There's no real exercises in there. It just teaches you the information. It gives you the information so that you can then go and devise your own courses. And I give a few recommendations. But I don't tell you what to do. I don't tell you how to do it. Because the idea here is that you're going to take that information and figure it out on your own. That's the cheapest entry-level course. It's also useful for getting an idea of what audiation actually is and how it can be used in music. The Audiation Masterclass series. These are guided drills. They're video-based. And I take you step by step through a process, one possible process, that will help you to develop your audiation abilities. And we largely use Counterpoint to do it. Because with Counterpoint, you can start with 2-part, 3-part, and then go into 4 parts. So that's like you have 2 independent lines, 3 independent lines, and 4 independent lines. Think of it this way. Think of it as I have a melody. Everybody knows what a melody is. Well, what if you had a melody and then another melody beneath it? And those 2 melodies are now creating harmony. What if you had a third melody? Now you have 3 melodies creating harmony. What if you had 4? Now you have 4 creating harmony. And this is one way to actually write music, but you don't have to learn any of the rules of Counterpoint because we're using already established contrapuntal lines and exercises, and I'm teaching you how to audiate them from a single line to a 4-part texture. I'm also teaching you Counterpoint and composition a little bit along the way, but that's only as a means to an end to audiation. Finally, the 3rd course is a composing hour inner ear training course. This is sort of the VIP program. This is where I literally take your hand, I take you step by step, and you get 40-minute exercises each week that you just listen to and follow the prompts. There's even spaced time within the recordings to allow you to really get into each instruction, and you develop audiation over the course of a year. And it's actually part of a 3-year series. The first year is audiation. The second year takes your audiation skills and helps you to hear contrapuntal lines, multiple lines at the same time. And then the 3rd year actually teaches you form and analysis. So without ever reading a single sheet of paper, without ever downloading a worksheet, you just listen to these audio files and I build this foundation that allows you to learn everything by ear, which is really the way we process music. So let's talk a little bit about why audiation matters. You want to be able to hear music internally before playing. When you can hear the music internally before playing, you're more accurate, you get more out of it, and you can kind of preview what's to come. It just gives you more confidence. It helps you improvise when you get really good at it. There are so many benefits to being able to hear music internally. It's like a little monitor in your mind that allows you to check things before you actually do them. It can also boost sight singing, improvisation, and composition skills. And more importantly, this is not something I'm just making up. This is backed by neuroscience. We have Dr. Edwin Gordon to thank for this. He spent a lot of time and he has the Gordon Institute for Audiation. You can go ahead and check those out too. But what Gordon does, which is different from me, is he teaches teachers to teach audiation. And he uses it as a method of learning music. I'm not using it as a method to learn music. I am using it as a method to develop your internal mind so that you can hear anything you want. So you have a very powerful inner ear. And this is really important because somebody actually had a great comment on one of my YouTube channels recently. He asked, actually I don't know if it's a he or she, but this person asked, he said, when people are younger, they've shown the fibers in the ear near the cochlea. They have very neatly combed hairs, and these hairs are responsible for pitch refinement and identifying things and determining what we're actually hearing. They help us hear music. And so he said older people in these studies have hairs that look like they've been hit by a tornado. They're all over the place. And so the question was, how does that really affect ear training? And it does, absolutely. So if you're younger, you have more refined hairs. They're nicely combed, right? But as you get older and they get damaged, it does reduce the ability to hear things. But here's the thing about that. This is why audiation is so important. If you learn to audiate, and you can learn to audiate no matter how old you are, as long as you can still hear something in the external world, then you can create this internal world that is very powerful. You can learn to hear the things that a perfect young ear can hear, like vibrations of harmonics. It's a tough thing to do, but you can actually replicate those harmonics internally. And you can hear music by looking at a score. Maybe you start with a single melody and then eventually you can hear a piano piece. And then maybe from there you go into more complex textures and eventually you build up to an orchestra. But I can tell you from personal experience, having had a stubborn ear, not the greatest when it comes to ear training. I wasn't born with perfect pitch or this ability to instantly recognize any interval I heard. And I had a stubborn ear. So, it took me a long time to develop my ear. I can tell you that even with those limitations that I had, I can still pick up a score, analyze it, go line by line, and then put those lines together and hear what it sounds like without touching a keyboard or without hearing a recording. And of course, it's going to vary. Some more complex pieces are more difficult than others, but I can do this, and so can you. I've taught others to do it as well. I've taught everything from students, young children, to professors. I mean, I've taught the whole gamut. And when I taught in college, one of the things that was interesting about that is I taught at a state school where we had varying levels of ability within a single course. So you'd have people that would come in with outstanding ears, even some of them had perfect pitch. And then you had people who didn't know where middle C was on the staff system. And so it shouldn't have been this way. The idea is that you try and get people of the same level in each course, but inevitably with a large school, people slip through the cracks and you do end up getting people that maybe shouldn't be in that class. But rather than just simply saying you can't be in this class, I would always just have a talk and say, if you really want to be in here, it's going to be difficult. I'd lay out the complexities of it, but I would approach ear training from a standpoint of, I have this student that's struggling with this on a basic level, and this advanced student who can hear almost anything, but they're struggling with these aspects of ear training, the more advanced stuff. And I found that when you cater to the person with the least experience and the person with the most experience, and you do all of it at the same time, which is possible, then you end up helping everybody, because the advanced student gets some fundamentals that maybe they skipped over, and that makes their ear stronger. And the beginning student gets challenged by the more advanced techniques. Maybe they can't do them as well as an advanced student, but they can try them, and that pushes them forward. So when you're constantly working with students of different levels in the same class, you get really good at creating courses and sequences that allow you to address the whole gamut of issues all at once. So it doesn't matter if you're young or old, audiation is essential, because that's the one thing that it doesn't matter how good your ear is. It doesn't matter how quick you are. It just matters how much exposure have you had, and will you be able to internalize music? And the answer is yes, you can. So let's talk about audiation essentials. If you're unsure about this whole audiation thing, it's less than $20. Go with this one. It's over on UreMusic.com, UreMusic.com. I'll put a link in the description here. Audiation essentials includes the core techniques. You get things like interval mapping, tonal centers, how to actually perceive music internally, and it gives you some visuals and clear analogies that help you understand the premise behind audiation and the premise behind all my courses, without going into substantial details and taking you by the hand step by step. You invent your own drills based on the information I provide, and it's ideal for visual learners and those who like to tinker a little bit. If you really enjoy creating your own programs to study, go with this, because you'll get my lectures. They're pretty short, they're pretty concise. I give you what you need to know about the various aspects of audiation, and there's several different ways we can approach audiation. I go over all of them. I go over how you can use it to perform better. I go over how you can use it as a conductor or composer. We really deal with the concepts only without you having to listen to my instruction. Some people want that. I've had people say, I don't care about the step-by-step. Don't tell me what to do. I've actually had people say, Don't tell me what to do. But then on the other hand, I've had people say, less instruction. I want you to tell me what to do. Just tell me how to get this ability. I don't care about the science. I don't care about the details. I don't care about the premise. And both approaches are completely valid. But when you're creating courses like this, and I'm not working with you independently, I can't really adapt to what you prefer. So what I've done instead is made it very complicated for a marketing standpoint, but you have 3 levels you can choose from. So Audiation Essentials is basically, give me the information, I'll figure it out on my own. The Audiation Masterclass series is a little more intense. It is more academic. It is visual. We have layered video lessons. So there's built-in exercises. We go from very simple to complex. It does teach a method of composition, because I think one of the best ways to learn audiation is by composing in your mind. You need to be able to create things that are new and not just audiate something that already exists. Here's an example. If you think of your national anthem or a folk song or something that's very familiar to you, and you try one of your favorite songs and you try and play it back in your head, can you hear it? How much detail is there? Chances are, if it's a familiar song, a familiar piece, you're able to audiate at a pretty high level. Now that experience, if you're able to do it, you've ever had that experience where you actually close your eyes and you just hear a song in full concert quality, that's the experience of audiation, but it's not going, the simple ability to do that doesn't develop audiation skills. So what I mean is this: to be able to compose new ideas in your mind, to be able to learn new works that you haven't seen before, you need to deal with novel, new, and innovative materials, things you haven't really been approached with before. And so you need to be able to create music in your mind. So because of that, this particular course deals with an aspect of composition, because that is one of the best ways, in my opinion, to develop audiation. So what we do in here is there's a structure, there's focused repetition, there's some really difficult drills which are not meant to be able to complete. You're just meant to be able to keep coming back to them and go a little bit further each day, because we're trying to improve your musical memory. Research has shown that musical memory is a huge indicator of how well you'll go and how far you'll go with ear training. And it's perfect if you've already got the basics. So if you already watched the Audiation Masterclass series, the Essentials one, then you will, not the Audiation Masterclass series, but if you've gone through the Audiation Essentials course, then you'll have the information to be able to get more out of the Masterclass series. But it's not required. You can go straight into the Masterclass series. I will warn you, this is a difficult one. It's more academic. It's less step-by-step in some ways. It's more practice this exercise until you can develop a certain level of mastery. It's not like private lessons. And people sometimes have a little trouble finishing certain aspects of it because it does get pretty intense. So this is kind of like, if you can devote a lot of time and you're dedicated, the Audiation Masterclass series is right for you. The final one is the Composing Hour Inner Ear Training. So this is a multi-year audio-only curriculum. It teaches audiation, counterpoint, and form. And we do all of this without downloading worksheets, doing anything other than just downloading an album to your phone. And you just go week by week through the album. So that one is only available on UreMusic.com. It's not available anywhere else. And the way it works is you have to actually, you'll sign up for the course and you'll get a set of lessons each week. They'll just be available 1 week after you sign up. When you download them, they actually form their own album, and then you can download it to your phone, your computer, whatever you want to do. And that way you don't have to sign into a website. You just press play. You can listen to these anywhere. You don't need an internet connection because you can actually download the files. Can't really do that with video because video files are too large and they quickly take up too much space, but audio files are pretty lightweight. So this one comes with weekly listening labs and composition prompts, and it's for serious composers or complete entry-level musicians who want a very step-by-step approach. You don't want to think about the training. You're too busy. You are a professional musician and you just want to come in, get the prompts, do the exercises, put it away for the day, and move on with your life and just see gradual improvement. So it's really, in my opinion, the Composing Hour Inner Ear Training course is the most significant one. It is the most complete one, and it's going to be the best option for most people if you want that step-by-step instruction. So how do you choose? Basically, Audiation Essentials gives you the principles and the creative freedom to kind of figure out your own course of study. Audiation Masterclass series is step-by-step practice with video, a lot of worksheets to download, a lot of work, but it works. It really does work if you get through it. And then there's a composing our inner ear training. It's a deep, long-term commitment. It's like getting a private lesson from me every week. And as you have questions, you can ask me on each lesson, say, I like this, I didn't like this. I ask you to think about your progress, and I encourage you to reach out to me and work with me throughout this course. Let me know if something doesn't work, because what I can do is it's a live course. So if you get to lesson 3 and you feel like something's missing, all you do is you send me a little note that says, hey, I felt like this was too big of a gap. And what I'll do is create an additional lesson as a bridge between the previous one and the one you're currently working on. And this is just because even though the course is extremely well thought out, I've been wanting to do this for many years, but I didn't really know how to do it. And I finally figured out how to do it. But when you work with other people, you start to discover things you didn't think about. And so if there's something that's an issue, I will actually create an entirely new lesson for you that you can work on, and then you can continue through the course, and we'll just make them little addendums for people that are having difficulty. And so that actually could make it longer than 52 weeks by the time the course is finished. But it'll be one of these things where you have to think about this. What would it mean if you could audiate? What would it mean if your ear got fixed? What would it mean if you understood from a practical standpoint, audiation, counterpoint, and form? You knew what a sonata-form was. You knew the difference between a sentence and a period. Not because you studied some overly obtuse music theory textbook, because you actually can hear it. You can hear it. And you can visualize it. You can actually see what I'm talking about on a staff system. This is the goal of that course. It is really the most advanced musicianship training I think I will ever offer. And there's potential for it to go beyond year 3. But at this point in time, the program has been sketched out for only 3 years. Because my opinion, audiation, counterpoint, form, you got what you need. Form teaches music theory. So it's a proper sequence. It makes a lot of sense. And I think it'll help a lot of people. So I really hope that you can join in on that. It's going to be a lot of fun. The students that are taking it now love it. I'm getting very positive results. So just remember that audiation is a muscle. We build it over months or years. You wouldn't, if you want to be a bodybuilder, expect to have no muscle mass and in 1 year be competing. It takes years. And the more that you do it, the deeper it becomes. So what I'm doing is I'm really taking sort of an athletic approach in a sense, because I used to be a runner. When I was in high school, I had a very fast mile. I'm not going to talk about my speed or anything, but I was a little bit of an athlete in that sense. And I continued it all throughout college, and then some other things happened. But, I take this concept of consistent building over time and I apply it to my musical studies. And the more that you practice, the better you're going to get. The more muscle, it's not really a muscle, but the more muscle you actually build. So to close off here, I'm going to put some course links in the description. I encourage you to ask me any questions here. Please comment if you found this helpful, and make sure that you do like and subscribe only if you want more ear training tips. I'm serious about that. Don't like and subscribe if you're just trying to help me out. I'm really only interested in helping people that genuinely connect with the way I teach, because there's so many options out there. If mine doesn't work for you, that's fine. It won't. But I do know that my method works for a lot of people. And I get way more positive reviews than negative reviews. And usually the negative reviews are about, you talk too much or something like that. But I always believe that you should provide as much information as necessary. So at the risk of rambling at that point, I'm going to go ahead and stop for today. Please let me know if you have any questions. I hope this helps to clarify the different courses that I offer for audiation.